podium, it makes me feel like I've got something to hold to. I'll pass out. I'm thankful for everybody being here. I feel really inadequate being in front of so many smart people. I told my wife that I felt like I was at college and in front of a bunch of college kids because y'all look so young to me. But thank you for being here. Thank you for the help. And thank you for the insight and knowledge and all that you bring to us and helping to find solutions for our families and communities that we love. I'm thankful also for Facebook because the older I get, the less I can remember. And I like how social media can show you your memories. And in my memories today, there's pictures of, we had secured all that we knew to do at home and in our neighborhood, and we checked on other family and friends. And on this day, we were still contemplating, are we going to stay or are we going to run for our lives? Because she was sustained, when I say she, Florence was sustained at 130 miles an hour at that time. And we had considered going up to Madison, heading for the hills to stay with the Nora's grandparents. But I wanted one last trip to the Cape. Nothing brings me peace like family time and quiet time and a beach looking as far as you can look in both directions, not seeing anyone else except for what I saw on Facebook today. I took a picture of it. If you look me up on Facebook, it's a beautiful picture, even though I took it, I'm not ashamed to say that. But what we saw when we walked across at the horse pen was some horses heading west. For those of you that don't know, it's higher down on Shackford. There's on Wade Shore, what we call Wade Shore. There's the protection of the maritime forest on that end. And the horses knew, hey, we feel our spidey senses are telling us we better head for the hills ourselves. And so I'm glad I captured that picture. And the cave's in the background, and it's pretty. There's nice little glassy waves starting. And I'm glad for that memory that I had to look back on. I had also shared 5 years ago and about 11 days from now, our power had just come back on. Because in our neighborhood, we were without power for about 10 days. And that's why I'm going to read to you, because I shared my feelings when the power did come back on. And so I'm going to share that in a little bit. But by a show of hands, and I hate people to do things like this, but by a show of hands, how many people have lived through a hurricane, like actually been here or been on the coast? Wow, a lot of it. I'm glad to see so many people have, because it's hard to explain some of the feelings I want to share. Like if you've never stepped on a nail and had to go through your foot, you can imagine that hurts. But you don't know how bad that hurts unless you've done it. So to see that many people raise their hands, you're going to understand a lot of, hopefully you'll understand a lot of what I was feeling that night. So this was just some random thoughts as I was trying to fall asleep 5 years, 10 days ago. I sort of felt like the Tom Hanks character from Castaway. I see some of you shaking your head already. I'm going to ad-lib to what I wrote. I hate going off script because I'll get confused, but remember in Castaway, if you've seen that movie, how when he was rescued, they threw him a party, and afterwards there was shrimp cocktails left over and crab legs left over, and all this food was being wasted, and ice cubes were melting in the cups, and you could tell by the look on his face that we take a lot for granted. When you're stranded on an island like he was for like 6 or 7 years, all of those things was so hard for him to have. But anyway, so I wrote that night that I felt like that character. And, you know, it shows him later after the party is over that he's just laying on the floor because he's not used to a bed. He's clicking on his lamp and he's clipping it right back off. I wrote, tonight I appreciate how simple it is just to flip on a light switch, and I have a light. The fridge is cold when I open the door, and I keep hearing the ice dump into the freezer. All I have to do is turn a knob and I can cook. I now have hot water. The house smells good again. The AC running has pulled out most of the humidity. And it's way more comfortable in here tonight with these sheets being pulled up to my nose than it's been the past 9 or 10 nights trying to not sweat, even after taking an ice cold shower. I'm not sure exactly what lessons the Lord wanted me to learn during this past couple of weeks, but I've learned many. Being on the ridge cap of your roof, trying to put down tarps, isn't easy to do in high winds and with it lightning and thunder and raining beat my eyes out, but I did it. When the water is pouring into your home, you'll do whatever you can to save it. Getting my mower up on the porch to protect it from the rising waters wasn't that hard because many hands really do make light work. Riding it back down on a sheet of plywood down the steps was fun, and it kind of reminded me of the stuntman that I wanted to be as a kid. Clothes felt much better out of the dryer. I had nearly forgotten about helping my mama hang clothes on the line. When I was a little boy, my job was to hold the basket and give her the clothespin so she wouldn't have to bend over so many times. But a fresh shirt out of the dryer feels a lot better than the stiff things I was having to wear. All the stars in the heavens are a lot easier to see without the street lights drowning them out. I can tell you this, 1,000,000 frogs croaking at one time while you're trying to sleep with the windows down about drove me crazy. A light breeze through the screen always beats nary breath of wind. The cold showers that I had been getting reminded me of filling up buckets, 5-gallon buckets from a hand pump at a camp over at the banks. And the cold water still took my breath away. If you think you might need 8 screws to put up a sheet of plywood, you better take it out to win. Because when you stand on that step on the ladder that it tells you not to stand on, and you're trying to get a sheet of plywood up over a window, you're going to lose a bunch of screws. Waiting in line with your family and a couple hundred others is a really humbling experience when you're trying to get a warm meal. I've got to add there that, if there's anything good that comes from these storms is people that I had never seen before and that I'll never see again. Came from places like Rocky Mountain and Wilson and Lewisburg. And they just showed up with pig cookers. And they were randomly set up wherever. And you get word that there's food at Far Park or wherever they may be. And I appreciate people that do things like that. I've been reminded to use my manners even more than I usually do. I said thank you after standing in a line, and I've never meant it more in my whole life. Now I can't say it. Patience is gold, and so is water, a warm plate of food, ice, and gasoline. I believe that angels were everywhere and that saints still exist. Giving is better and oftentimes a lot easier than receiving. I learned that serving others brings joy, that warm food is soul food, that an ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure. I also learned that kids still get easily bored, and when a little boy from up the street shows up in your yard and asks if you'll throw a football with him, I was glad to drop a rake for a little while and throw a football. I also learned that hummingbirds don't stop eating even in the middle of a hurricane. You can live without a TV, but it was really hard for me to put the cell phone away or not have access to one. I learned that yard work won't kill me, but I didn't want to have to rake for a while. I also learned that the harder you work for something, the more I believe you learn to appreciate it. That some stuff is just stuff, and wanting something and needing something are two different things. I learned that a lot of people are amazing. I learned that a common goal builds stronger communities. And at that time, I wrote that we were growing stronger every day. In closing, I wrote that down east ain't a bad place to be raised. I'm glad that this is my home. So tonight, I have so much to be thankful for. I'm still learning life lessons. My family is safe. I have a greater appreciation for the smallest things. And despite all of my errors, I learned that the Lord was still mindful and that He loved me. That's all the notes I had written about that night. I don't know if that took you all down, walk down memory lane and similar situations, but that was some of the things that I learned and a whole lot more. Most people don't like having to talk in front of people. But when Karen asked me to limit it to 10 minutes, that's a tough thing for me, because I can stand up here all night and talk about other lessons that I learned and things I would love to share with you. But I think that my time is probably up, and so Jim Phillips, daughter-in-law, wherever you're at, you're welcome to come up here. Oh, there she is.
So you know my father-in-law?
Yes.
He's a good man.
He was their original board member.
No, and you should not have brought him up because I won't be able to do this without tears. But he was a good man. Good evening. My name is Reverend Robbie Phillips, and yes, I am Jim Phillips' daughter-in-law. And it is a pleasure, it is an honor, and to be here tonight. I was the past, or I am the past disaster recovery director for the Carteret Long-Term Recovery Alliance. And I currently now serve just as I shouldn't say just as because it's not, but I serve with the people who work with the individuals, the case managers. Tonight we also have from the Alliance the chairperson and Kate Cole, if you would stand. And she currently serves as the chairperson of the Long-Term Recovery Alliance, and Yavita Zarelli, and I think she's the chairperson of communication. We are very much still in recovery tonight, as today, almost 5 years later. Can you believe that? That there are still people in our community that have not recovered. There are still people in our community that might not ever recover. And so to me, that's a staggering thing. Because 95% of the people in our community have, and they've long forgotten about the people who have not. The Carteret Long-Term Recovery Alliance was formed to do that. And so I could not have, and we could not have, there was a group of people in the community that came together to start the Alliance. Within about, I think it was about 5 weeks after Florence, we stood this organization up and we banded together across the community to start an organization that was going to be here until the last home is complete. And I'm here to tell you tonight the last home is not complete. Karen wanted me to share a couple of the statistics, and I will do that. As of right now, we've had 623 cases, that means 623 homes or families that have come to us for services. We have closed 477 of those cases, and 93 of those cases we have personally, our organization, closed 93 of those. So not all long-term recovery groups do that. We chose to be active and actually get the volunteers here and actually be active in that. A lot of long-term recovery groups just partner with other organizations. So we have organizations all across the country that we have partnered with and brought here. And some of them you guys bumped into. Some of them we learned about during it. And some of them we are still partnering with, like NCOR, so the Office of Recovery and Resiliency, and we still are sending cases to them, and some of these cases are still open. So we have still 146, if you can do the math, 146 cases that are still open. 73 of those cases we are handling on our own within our organization. The rest of them have been sent out. If those organizations can't help them, those cases come back to us and we still continue to help them in their recovery. And that happens all the way from, we help people that need minor repairs all the way to major repairs. We've done home raising. We've helped help some of them raise their homes. It's wide. One of the families, and I carry them with me all the time, still not recovering. They were fully insured, had all the insurance, they did everything right, and they're still not recovered. They're still not back in their home. They are still paying a mortgage and paying rent in an apartment in Beaufort. And we have just settled, just 2 weeks ago, settled with the final insurance, wind and hail, to try to get that family back into that home. So if that just tells you how some of this is. And the big thing, and so, some of the things that we've learned, and there's no way, Karen, that I could sit up here for 5 minutes and tell you everything that I've learned since Florence, but it's been a lot. All the way from working with insurance companies, to working with other organizations, to why things happen. Why did this home flood? Why did this roof fall off? Why all of that? Those are some of the really important things that I've learned, and I will continue to pass all that down. But the biggest thing that I've learned, and I will never forget this one, and I'm going to share this image with you. I'm a Presbyterian minister, and within a couple of weeks after Florence, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance came and met with the pastors and the leadership in the community, and they gave us an image, and I'll take this with me always. And they said, a disaster, particularly like a hurricane, rips the roof off of a community, just like it rips the roof off of our homes, and it gives us an opportunity to stare into the community like we've stared into our homes and find the weaknesses, find the things that need to be fixed. Folks, our roof on our community is still ripped off. We are still staring in and finding the weaknesses, seeing where we need to fix things and adjust things. And I think we will be doing this for a very long time. I'm here to tell you, and our organization is here to tell you, that we're here to help that. When all the homes are complete, we're still going to be working on those issues that are in the community that have caused us to be weak, has caused us to have these things happen, to help build resiliency in the community. And so, that's all I got to share.
And they want to participate, I'm sure. Everyone has some questions, I would imagine, but just to leave this or to help stay on track, we're getting out of here at 8.
30 minutes.
Okay. So if anyone has a comment, try to wait for a microphone unless you're as loud as Karen. So we all can hear the question, and then we have all these guys up here that can maybe provide some answers, or at least take the questions and try to answer them. So First question, what do we see as Downey's greatest challenges? We have one great soul,
Sea level rise.
right on, yeah.
Flooding.
Inequality in recovery. That is the rich versus the poor.
Infrastructure. I'm not sure if this is questions or just bullet points, but all of these are valid. They truly are.
Well, I don't know if this is a question or not, but the lady that was up there earlier and was talking about, you know, the family that had all the insurance and everything, you know, I's dotted, T's crossed, and we're still having issues. It makes me want to cancel my wind and hail if it ain't no good. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So I don't know if that's a question, but at least it's a concern.
What insurance company was that?
You know, insurance, I mean, that's why we have insurance, because we want that, you know, satisfaction, or at least that comfort that somebody's got our back. They take our, you know, premium, you know, but then they have a hard time getting it back to us when we need it.
I used to sell insurance and I got out of the business.
So we've got some insurance people out there, you all got any responses, or?
Yeah, I mean, that, to your point, I mean, yeah, you convey right in the policy. It says, we pay this premium, and you, the company, afford these coverages. What we saw the hurdle was, especially after Florence, was simply getting here. Getting the assets from the companies in here. This was a storm of biblical proportion where it just exhausted the insurance industry. You know, they had their best intent to get boots in the field, so to speak. And I'm sure, as all of you here know, you probably didn't have somebody with XYZ insurance company logo on their shirt showing up. It was some third-party vendor that they'd have to broker to come out. At the department, what we saw was that sometimes in those situations, you kind of got what you paid for. Somebody came out and was like, hey, I got hired to do this many tripods to look at a roof and knock those out, you know, lickety split, and then they're gone to Texas or Nebraska or wherever else. And you ended up, you know, paying the cost. You had to sit here and wait and wonder what's going on. You know, I had a lot of conversations with people after that, and I told them I wish the industry would get away from telling people once a claim of this type is filed, don't tell somebody you're going to get a call within 24 hours. That's unrealistic. Set realistic expectations for folks. And at least if you have that honesty up front, then you can kind of wrap your head around it and kind of deal with the situation. For me, I was coming from Raleigh. At the 40-95 split near Benson, I pretty much needed to sprout web feet to get down here. I responded with FEMA to Bolivia down at the Odell Williamson Auditorium. That was a joint, victim assistance center. We really, in Raleigh, I remember running around. My memory of the storm was, I'm west side of Raleigh. I didn't expect to have to run around for 6 hours that night with a towel, sopping water up that was bubbling up under the windowsills and coming up through the back door that's 6 inches off the ground. My house is in a slab in Raleigh. You'd never think you'd have flood, but pretty much, if you live where it rains, there's a potential it's going to flood. So, that's, kind of a brief overview on that. As we hear more questions, we'll try to answer that a little more in detail.
I think that when there's a disaster, we assume that FEMA is going to come save us, but I don't think that's their job. I'm not sure what their job is. I mean, down east they went we wanted to just pick our stuff up and take it to the ball field in Smyrna like we always do. And FEMA came and closed that to us. And then they kept it closed and came back maybe a week later and they opened it up to us. We had to sign in, but we were fully ready to. And they said, put your trash on the side of the road. And that was stupid. I mean, that didn't make any sense because then someone had to come, it was in my pickup truck. Like they take it, throw it on the side of the road, we'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks to take it to where I was going to drive it anyway. So I think, I'm not sure what FEMA's supposed to do. And I think we assume they're going to save us, but I don't think that's their job. I'd like to know what FEMA's job is, actually.
Some of you glance at me like I have the answers. I agree with everything he said, and I certainly am not the one that would be able to answer this.
Anybody that could address the FEMA piece?
Yeah, go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
I could talk very generally about.
This is Brad.
I'm not from FEMA, I'm from the state. Prior to going to the state, I started first as a volunteer. I'm an attorney, and so I went out and worked on a lot of FEMA appeals with individuals. When I went to legal aid, that's a lot of what we did initially too. We were helping people, this is 6, 7, 8 months after the storm. I think the first thing it's a good question too, to get in mind what FEMA is supposed to be there for. And when people talk about FEMA, a lot of times they're talking about their individual assistance program. It's something that's only triggered if there's a federal disaster, federally declared disaster. So Dorian, when it came this way, that assistance didn't come. But with FEMA's definition, they're trying to bring a home to safe and sanitary conditions. Now there's a lot of back and forth on what that means, but it's not meant to bring a person to full recovery in a lot of instances. And so what we try to do, at legal aid, and this is just a pitch too, if there is another storm, there's also volunteer attorneys that are available throughout the state to help people with these sort of appeals. It'll be through the North Carolina Bar Association and a bunch of other partner organizations, but it's not meant to get people all the way back. So I would run into a lot of different people who would be expending a lot of emotional capital on getting money from FEMA. And what I would suggest is that, there should be, they try to staff the DRCs with people, and these are disaster recovery centers that are set up. They can be at schools, sometimes they can be at old businesses, but they try to staff those with people that will assist you, and then you wait on getting a letter back. But I would advise people, if they get a letter back from FEMA that is not what they want, to try to reach out to some of these other organizations, because what we would see too is like someone would get a denial back and they would send a contractor estimate. They're like, I have $15,000 worth of damage, and they would appeal 5 or 6 times. By the time it would come back to us, it's like they're not denying you because you don't have any damage. They're saying that you have an insurance policy that should cover this. So what you have to prove is that your insurance policy didn't cover this. And so we'd see people appeal for the wrong reason, but a lot of what I suggested was just try to, if you don't get what you think you should get initially, try to reach out and have someone help you out with that, put in a good, strong appeal, and maybe the answer you get back after that appeal is the answer you're going to get, and then try to move on to other sources of recovery, because they're just going to want to see that you try to get all the money you can get from FEMA, like like CLTRA, like the Baptist, Methodist, whatever groups are all in Samaritan's Purse, but it's not, and the number keeps going up, but in most cases it's not meant to help you fully recover. I think sometimes people think that is. And for some people it can't help. Did you have?
Yeah, I just want to add,
Yeah.
and I can probably talk about the microphones, so. So one of the things that we learned in this process is there's a lot of people in down East Carteret County that have been hurt by FEMA. And so that's the last place you go and look for help. The one thing that we did learn is sign up. Just go and sign up. If you have damage, just go and sign up. And the reason you should do that is because in the big scheme of things, when the statistics are coming down, they look at those numbers. How many people in Carteret County signed up that they had damage? We cleared, and that was our voice all the way up to the governor's office. Anybody that would listen is that we've got more damage here than what's being reported to the FEMA. But when it comes to grant monies, that's what they look at. Okay? That's how the monies are distributed. So when we're all sitting here 5 years later saying, okay, where did all the federal funds go? Where did all the billions of dollars that were promised from there? They were distributed through that system. Okay? So FEMA does have a role in this. They're really the boots on the ground. They do have a lot of, they will hold you accountable. We get told and taught about duplications of services. So if you've got $5,000 from FEMA, then CLTRA couldn't come in there and help you, or any other organization, until you spent that money appropriately. And guess what? You have to show you have the receipts that you spent that money appropriately. So that is in that system. That hurts sometimes, but it is there to, to watch and manage and watch over those federal funds. But our voice has always been sign up. Sign up. Just go to the office and sign up. And if you don't get anything out of it, we'll work with you. I mean, and we did. Brad helped us with a lot of appeals that we went through, but just sign up.
Jeff?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You go first.
I'm not sure how to distill this down into one word, but I think the fact that Down East is such a large geographic place, 13 communities, we're not incorporated, we really only fall under the county. Anybody here from the county tonight?
Yes. Sorry.
That's who represents us in terms of government. And the funds and everything flows through our representatives. So they need to come to the table with this community and have real discussions about what we need here. So I'm sorry if that's a strong statement. So I don't know how to distill that into one word, but I think it's unincorporated communities in a large geographic area. How do we get our voice out there and heard?
True. Big truth.
I can speak with that. I don't need this, but I'll keep it here like I'm using it. So I got a statement to make before I ask my question, but I do have a question. It's coming. I've worked, I don't remember now, over 35 hurricane responses. Katrina was my favorite because FEMA had their first big presence at Katrina. Our division supervisor with FEMA, her day job was she was an editor for High Times News. I don't even think I need to say any more than that. So FEMA's has some wonderful people working in it. I don't care. Need to file, absolutely true. But I don't care. The best success I've ever seen in any of the hurricanes is the communities that can come together that are prepared going into the hurricane. They're the ones that come out of it the best every time. Even ones that are hard hit. Andrew was absolutely devastating. It was like, I grew up in Texas and tornadoes were the bad things. They just leveled things. Andrew leveled things in Miami, Homestead. The communities that were ready, the people that prepared themselves for that, those groups are the ones that came through it. I have a good friend here on Harper's Island. Love them to death. Asked them if they were ready if we got hit by a hurricane. Absolutely. How much water you got? 5 gallons. Family of 4, a dog and a cat. 5 gallons of water. What kind of food you got? Freeze dried. You gotta have water for that. So my question, I'm working my way around to it, I really am. Karen's like, Jeff, you're running out of time. What is out there to help people? What do y'all have out there? What does anybody have out there to truly help people prepare themselves? Because a lot of people think they're ready. Oh, looky there, a pamphlet. No, I'm kidding. That's it though. I'll bring this back.
I'd like to follow up on what Michelle said about some of the issues and having representation. I know we're not incorporated, but down east is in its own way. When one community is hurting, they all come. But on the other side of what she said, which is very true, is we need the county to be more active. I personally, and my 16-year-old son, got a state grant for $250,000 to fix the dishing system in Marshallburg, where Michelle also lives. And it's an epic failure. It's not complete. Part of the money's been returned because the deadline rolled by. We need somebody that will listen to all of us that says, hey, we're really going to do what we say, and we need to get this done. Because you hear for a long time in Gordy, you hit him, so I couldn't get to him. He and I have butted heads so many times. I've been fighting for 20 years about the ditching systems down here. And Gordy kept telling me, well, that's not the state because they were in between the properties. And by the way, Gordy, you were right. It was the county that was responsible. So, but he was always very gracious. So I want to give him that acknowledgement. But when you go and find the money, and you still can't get the problem resolved, we live on a peninsula. Marshallburg is on a peninsula. And we don't flood from salt water. Now just take that in from it. We don't flood from salt water. I'm living in the house I've been in 67 years. When I talk about things changing, it's changed because, first of all, hurricanes, the frequency certainly has changed. The intensity has changed. So something's going on. I don't know why I'm not that smart, but I know it's changed. And if we flood with a northeast wind and a full moon and rain, what do you think we're going to do when a hurricane comes in? And my son, who just started his freshman year at state as an engineer, has been out of his home 3 times on Christmas and Thanksgiving, not from a hurricane, from flooding in October. The lady next door, an elderly lady, just had to buy another car because she opened her doors on more than one occasion in October, and the water rolled out. We have to plan before the hurricane gets here, or it's going to be too late at that point. We need somebody here in local government, state government, that says, hey, we need to go down east and really look at what's happening with the flooding issues. And yes, I believe the tide levels are rising. I lived right there on the harbor, like I said, 67 or 68 years. But it's not all about that. It's ditches not working adequately and no way to get them off. I have seen the ditches get cut and the debris left right in. And I'm not saying by the state board, don't railroad it. I'm saying people have filled in the ditches in front of their property. You'll have a ditch from one place and a ditch another. So Michelle's right, that we've got to have somebody locally that will say, we're here to represent you and we're going to get this fixed. And evidently getting the money is not the issue because I'm telling you, I have the documentation. A friend of mine heard on the public radio one morning, hey, Representative Bell trying to get a House bill to help people like that. We thought, man, we are healed. Guess what? We flooded Easter Friday. That's with the new system. So the money was there and we didn't get it fixed. So we need that Michelle right. We have no county representation here tonight. That's very disheartening. But we have a lot of nice people up here in Bar. So the only thing I disagree with you about, Michelle, we're incorporated in our own little way.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for taking the time to listen to a very frustrated parent.
And real quick, back to the flyers.
Sorry.
I just want to point it out because what ends up happening is we have these great little things that tells you exactly what you do before, during, and after disaster. Gives you step-by-step instructions, but I'm guilty of it as well. We end up picking up those bags and we put them somewhere on the table and we forget all about them, and then the hurricane gets ready to come and you forget you even have them right to begin with. So I'm gonna just encourage you, you know, that have lots of information, lots of telephone numbers in here in case you do have anything. It's just something we can hand out and give to you today. Of course, it ain't gonna stop the hurricane from coming, but it's something that we can help you out with a little bit. Tell you what you need to do.
You know, it's interesting too. So that's there. There are resources out there. How many people in this room have looked at those resources? How much better some of you have? How much better would it be if in a place like this, not only did we give you a flyer, but we actually talked you through things. Why do you need this much water? Why do you need this type of food? Why do you need this kind of storage for that kind of food? And actually talked you through it, where you could go, what you could do with those things. And that's the one piece. There are lots of resources out there, right? But that community connection where we can show and help and tell each other things that we've learned. Maybe I've learned something over here. Maybe I haven't, it's more likely, but maybe y'all have, and you can say, hey, you know, that was a stupid idea you had there about putting the water in the mason jars, because they break. But maybe there's better ideas out there folks have them. Us working together, I'll shut up, Karen. But us working together, we can do a lot of these things.
Our time is running out. Karen, I want someone to say something, but let me remind you, in case you haven't yet, anything that you, ideas, suggestions, comments, concerns, please jot them down as they come to you and make sure you leave these behind. Got another great looking handsome gray-headed devil coming up here.
Hi, y'all. I'm Rob Young, I'm a geologist, and we are offering a special opportunity for those of you who are here tonight. We are currently doing individual home vulnerability assessments for folks down east.
That's awesome.
Okay? At no cost to you. Right now. You want to know how it works? You can talk to Chris. This is his house.
I got mine today, thank you.
What we will do is utilize an approach that we've been using around the country to help you understand your vulnerabilities. So, what does FEMA think your base flood elevation is? That's in here. It's wrong. It's not high enough. We will project sort of the flooding from a category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 storm. We'll tell you how much water would be in your yard. We'll tell you how much water would be in your house with each one of these events. Take a look at your utilities, what you've done to make your place safer, and basically try and help you understand what you can do to make your place a little bit better, basically. We can't solve your infrastructure problems, which I agree is a good place to start. But the place you start before that is keeping your house dry during the next hurricane. And I can't offer you the money to raise your house, but I can offer you the numbers that you would need to know in order to go get that done. And if you're interested, I can show you a little bit of an example of what we've been doing, but you can talk to Karen about getting your name on the list. And as long as there's not a couple thousand of them, then we'd be happy to do something like this for you, and hopefully it will be useful, and it will help you understand your vulnerability in the next storm. And if you've raised it or you're thinking about raising it, this will help you sort of kick that idea around. And then we're happy, I'm not just going to give this to you and then walk away. We're happy to chat with you about what your options are. And I just got tired of everybody just talking, and we just wanted to do something. So this is what we're doing. Talk to Karen if you want to get your name on the list. And
know you charged us.
That was fine. But we had a food line near us, just devastated. Went in the next, day when power came back on, the 14 hours later, and it was just wiped out. It was like post-apocalyptic. No meat, they were tarping over the whole deli section. You couldn't get milk or eggs, they were off limits. There was Publix, which is like line of sight, like 500 yards away from it. Publix was knocking it out. That food line was probably a 20-year-old store. That Publix is 5 years old. I remember when they broke ground and they built the Publix, the first thing they brought in was a generator that's as wide as this room to power the job site. Most Walmart stores you see do that. They have a huge central power supply that they bring into the site, and they run the equipment to build the facility off of that. So that's the backup. That school you're talking about, it's probably got an old Caterpillar diesel generator that might run 5 hours. So
Well, and you mentioned that Newport Middle School is one of the newest schools in the county, and it was built with that in mind. So the generators were there in the planning process. The school I just mentioned down to Atlanta was built in 1950. It would be a great nuclear shelter because, at the time we were afraid the Soviet Union was going to blow us up. And the walls are about 6 foot thick. I'm not joking. We broke several long bits trying to get like Wi-Fi going through the walls. But as far as a hurricane, we can't have a generator to run the schools. So anyway, thank you for that.
That's something that maybe they could look at and bring in after the fact. I know when I worked for an insurance company, we had a Caterpillar generator beside our regional office. It was literally the size of a school bus. And they would send us like a week ahead advance notice that they were going to test it. They'd usually test it a month before the hurricane season kicked in. And the reason they told us that is because you would have thought the building was on fire. Huge plume of smoke. The entire building vibrated when that thing fired up. But it worked. I was there when power was out for that whole section of Raleigh, and we were the beacon of light. We literally had people coming and hanging out in the parking lot because, that safety, as y'all know around here, when the power went out, it was darker than normal. And that's when you start feeling kind of primeval what it is.
Just personal experience, not state job. I live in Hyde County, North Carolina, so I understand what y'all are saying, and some of the things in a previous life that we actually would have to do. When I did work for our government there, is we would actually contact some of the other further away counties before the hurricane came if we thought we were going to need a generator. My husband actually owned a string bean grader, and that would be their point where the county employees would come, and then you could go there and get resources. You could get the water and all the stuff that would come in, that the state would send in, emergency management would send in. And we would contact another county further in to see if they had a generator set up that we could actually bus in, and we were able to do that twice that I know of, and actually use a generator from a whole other county that was not impacted by a hurricane. I don't know if that would be something that may help, and maybe there might be a grant out there, a preparedness grant, maybe I don't know, a FEMA preparedness grant, but it wouldn't hurt to look into something like that to get the generator for the school. Just thoughts.
I know when I grew up Rocky Mountains, not just down east, but down east. And the church I was a member at, we had a sister church in England. Maybe you could have a sister county, Forsyth, Union.
I've been seeing people take their digging into their own head, finding excavators and probably making it wrong. But what I wanted to do was say that we're going to probably come to a point, sea level rise is happening. Who here believes we can save every single home down east? I didn't think so either. Not everybody is at an elevation that can survive this. We've been living on the edge of the planet here. I'm probably the newest one here. I'm 23 years. So we're enjoying this very, very close proximity to the mighty, mighty ocean. We can't do that forever. We're kind of having to, so some people are, so there's that. We are going to try, and yet we're not going to be 100% successful. Someplace, like we were talking today with Route 12, you know, they keep filling it in, and it takes it out and takes it out. There's going to be a limit. How many tax dollars do we want to spend on those things?
Wait till this week's over.
Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Gordy Ewer. I'm with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. I serve as the Carteret County Maintenance Engineer and also Pamlico County, but Carteret County. I'm a citizen of Carteret County. I'm a product of Carteret County. So its success is vital to me as much as it is to you. Ma'am, I heard you. I heard what you were saying about your ditches.
You're the one I'm supposed to.
I don't think that you and I have ever spoken before. But absolutely, you're absolutely right. I am the one that you should be calling. We have, our telephone number is, I can give it out. We can 515-5440, and you can call it anytime. Yeah, well, listen, I get a lot of calls.
Yeah, but let's work together.
I get a lot of calls. But as Mr. Lewis will tell you, I don't mind. I will come out and we can have a discussion. And it can get heated, it can get emotional, but and I welcome that. Let's talk it. Let's walk it. Let's walk the issue. That's why I'm here, and that's what we do. But I do need to be notified of the issues. I've got 1,000 miles in Carteret County, and I've got 10 people to look after 1,000 miles. There is no way that I can tell you what's going on in front of 207 Elm Street. But the person who lives at 207 Elm Street, that is huge to me. So they need to let me know, right? And then we'll come out. You talk about a drainage study. There he is in the back. We can do that on an individual basis, small basis, not a county-wide survey. But we can come through in Marshallburg, like Mr. Lewis is, and kind of survey that out to see where that drainage goes. Those are available to you right now. They're available to you immediately. Outside of that, we talk about tidal water coming to your 7th step. My roadside ditch isn't going to do anything to stop that.
Yeah, I can't do anything about that, but the problem's not fixed. The underlying problem that is there and is being there, if it's not done, that 7th step's going to continue to go up. Now, if my house floods, Marshallburg's going to be low.
And you were told correctly, we are bound to the same environmental agencies as everybody else. I have to answer the county, so they will not allow me to go into the Marshall ditch. When ultimately that's where it needs to go, but I do have to stop short. You have buffers that require that we stop short.
Work together. Work together to solve the problem.
Are you done?
I probably. I hope so.
Well,
We got 3 minutes.
okay, our lady right here was talking about houses down east, and it kind of brings me to my next concern that I kind of have. And everybody that was on the bus today, I apologize because I talked all about this today, so y'all have heard this before. But if you think about down east, and there's houses that already exist and still exist, and then there's new construction that's being done, in various places that I question. So when, and this is my question, I guess, when do we reach, with the lack of a better term, maximum capacity? When do we reach the point where our infrastructure of septic tanks and wells, because that's what we mostly have, when are we hurting the environment, or have we already reached that point? And who is the person, this or agency or whatever, that's going to tell people, there's no more room, you either got to build or buy something that already has a footprint there, like an existing house, or you're just going to have to wait till somebody tries to sell the property. You can't go develop over here in this new area. Growing up in Hartzon, I don't know if you've thought about this, Corey, as a young boy. As a young boy, I
I thought weird. But as a young boy, I knew horizontal was only a certain size. And I knew that you only could develop a certain amount of it. And I was always worried that I was not going to get my piece. You know, that everything was going to get bought up before I could get my piece, you know. And I see some of the horizontal shaking their hand. Thursday, I got to tell you this because I'm excited about it. Thursday, Caroline, my daughter, closes on a house on 1535 Island Road, Arkansas. And I've got a big sign already made on the foot of the yard that says, Harker's Honors, buying their heritage back one piece at a time. She's a physical therapist and she's doing quite well. Anyway, that's another story. But when do we reach maximum capacity, and who's going to tell those people that come with plenty of money that wants to, hey, beautiful view. We was down the day before today down Croker Street and looking over to the, Core Sound and, watching the sun come up. Oh, it's $1 million view. And there's people that'll pay that much for it. But who's going to? Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Well, Chris, any given day, every
They got money and whatever they want. Along that same line, I was going to figure out this. Along that same line, and I'm new down here, but on this last little storm, it wasn't even a storm. I was scared of it. I was scared. All this building that's going on, which is, whatever. Who's in charge of all the porta johns that were blown over, laid in ditches? I mean, I can't get out of my truck and pick those up. There were, the workers are leaving trash all over the place. Who do you call about that? I called the builder. They were like, well, we don't know anything about it. Who do we call about that? How do you take care of that? The stuff in the dumpsters was just swirling up and flying all over the place. Who do you talk to about that? So, probably that county.
We've got one more young girl that wants to say something, then we're going to wrap it up.
I wanted to ask Mr. Connolly if there were going to be anything coming down from the state in terms of regulations about where and how future buildings should go for flood-prone, sea level rising communities like ours. Will there be anything coming down from the state? Is there anything in the works to regulate from that level?
While he's thinking about that, let me make a comment, because this is the way island people thought. Every rule and regulation that comes along, they want to fight it, they don't go along with it. They don't realize that a lot of times, primarily, it's for our own good. When they say your air conditioning needs to be this high, we want to complain. Then, well, are you crazy? Why have I got to spend $500 more to do that? Well, it's to remedy problems like we experience when the UI is a family.
Well, first, there's so much from off at the Master Dinner introduction. That's what I appreciate that. Because there's not a whole lot scarier than 120 angry downishers. And first, I want to say quickly, I promise I'll be quick, I'm not elected, that I've spent some time down east, and I know that you all are the helpers, because I recognize so many faces from every time I've been down here. And I think another thing I've been chewing on is, as I've been sitting here and listening, is we've got government agencies and funding that were designed for the disasters and the infrastructure and the systems of before. And this is different. The reason the ditches didn't flood is not because we had 1,000 more DOT guys out there with shovels every day. It's because the ditches didn't need to be, there wasn't that much water up and down. It didn't matter which way the water's coming from, there's more of it. And I think the other thing that is a thing that's been, that I've been rolling with is the answer is yes. The answer is yes to all of it. It is, we're going to need infrastructure. We're going to need our environment protected, because that's what's kept us
the storm surge from beating us up before. I mean, the answer is yes. The houses are going to be higher. The houses are going to have to be moved. And the frustrating thing is, and I always have to watch myself getting out in front of my skis because I kind of remember my bosses. We don't have a budget. We don't have any money. In any regulation, the short answer is any regulation that the federal government, or particularly DEQ, or InCorp come up with would very quickly be undone by the General Assembly. And that's too blunt, to be perfectly honest, and I'm looking at all these cameras. But it is. I mean, that's the situation we're dealing with. And I'm sorry to say that, well, that it's going to be us. It's going to be folks who care about down east who say down east. There's not going to be a regulation to say you can't put a house there. As much as we all know, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's not a real novel idea from a down easter that they should put a gate at Beaufort and not let anybody else in. That's not the first time that thought's happened. Again, I'm discouraged when I read the headlines, but I'm encouraged when I meet people. And this group of people, I know it hurts every piece of DNA in the down easters, but it's going to take helping everybody. It's going to take asking for help. It's going to take a community, and it just, I know it irritates the fire out of you, but we can't do it alone. You gonna fight the ocean by yourself? We can't. And I know Karen's gonna. Yeah. I'm getting the look. But I'm encouraged by the folks here. And I appreciate being invited, and I'll be back. 252-571-3389 is my cell phone. And if you can't get a hold of me, call Karen. But again, thank you for being here, and unfortunately, I think the answer is yes.
Last words, anybody? No.
Because I didn't really know about where to go to find flood funding, even though I work with a whole bunch of wonderful people who deal with that. Where do you go to figure out all the different nuances for all the flooding? Google flood funding finder. It's on the American Coalition or Flood Coalition website. It has all the information about the wonderful grants that my team does, and then a whole bunch of other funding for flood initiatives. So it'll tell you who can partner to get it. It'll tell you what it's for, how to apply for it. So click on all the cool things on this little finder. It'll help out.
Say it again.
Say it one more time.
Flood funding finder, American Flood Coalition website.
Karen, can I ask one more question? To be quick, and it's all question. Okay. So is there anything besides a non-governmental body that can partner for some of these funds that are out there? Because most of them require a governmental body like the county, which may or may not help.
This website will tell you that.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm letting somebody else answer. Do you know? If there are. I think that, we're aware that most of the grant funding requires some type of government entity. And my colleague, Brian Byfield, as we've been looking at this and listening to the community, and we really appreciate the invitation to be here, to hear what you guys have to say. But we're trying to think about that and think about what might be some solutions to dealing with that, or how to work together, I think was the thing that I kept hearing the pastor say over and over again. But how can we work together to move